So here we are again. Welcome to everybody. Hoping that you're going to enjoy the next 45 minutes or so with us. Today, Linda and I are talking about limitless planning to achieve your goals and dreams. So really, what is that? And Linda has looked up and is going to share with us Limitless.
I am, because it was a question I had in my own mind, even though we did pick the title together, right? So,
Yeah.
what is limitless? And this is a definition. Being limitless is the ability to make the decision to be and do anything that is centered in your heart and in harmony with you and the world. What do you think about that one, Jade?
I love it. For me, it definitely speaks to a person's uniqueness and allows their own definition to come in to play, not something that's been predefined by someone else, really. So it speaks to you owning your definition of limitless. How do you find that that's applicable in business, Linda?
Well, very much so. Something that I find very important in business is learning, a continuous learning and growth pattern. But more important than that is linking it to your true desires, the values that you have in life, and what it is that you want to put out there in the world. It's something perhaps I didn't realize initially back in the good old corporate world, which was driven by targets and reports and analytics and performance reviews and bonuses, hopefully, and things, all of these words that today, actually, as an entrepreneur, don't make as much sense to me. Yet, your numbers and understanding your numbers is a critical part of being a business owner.
No, definitely, absolutely. So, knowing those numbers and where they are, and how are you planning them? I think becomes very important. So, if you're forecasting, what is it that you've done? What have you achieved? And what is the next step, stretching into that growth level, so that the business can expand, and you can expand, and obviously with that, your wealth expands as well. So, I think it's a incredibly important topic to have a look at in terms of planning. And that brings me to the word budget as well, Linda. What do you feel about budgeting?
Budgets, what are they? They're like dreams and visions. It's like it's something that you never achieve, right? You have a budget and you say, I'm going to make, I don't know, 500,000 rand in net profit this year, and maybe you just don't achieve that. Maybe you do. But do you understand how you achieved it, or why you are not achieving it? So, yes, I am going to spend a little bit of time on this very scary topic of knowing your numbers today, guys. So hopefully we haven't just scared a bunch of people off. We're not going to talk accounting. We're not going to talk about revenues and expenses and tax. We'll leave all of that to the accountants, right? But what is vital, and I really want to express this to you guys, what is vital is just knowing your numbers. What are they? What is going on in your bank account or bank accounts? Maybe you have a bank account for your personal stuff and you have a bank account for your business. In fact, if you don't, you should, right? The first thing I did when I started the business was just pile everything in one account and then try and fix it all at the end of the month. So tip number one, have separate accounts for your personal life and your business life, because that way at least you can kind of manage things. But knowing your numbers, all jokes aside, is a critical component of business. And I've come across many business owners who are scared of the numbers and more inclined to just pass all the slips and papers and invoices over to their bookkeeper or accountant so that they don't have to worry about it. But when you understand the numbers and you track them on a regular basis, you find patterns, right? You find patterns to say maybe your business is seasonal. Maybe you have a lot of business in winter, but not a lot of business in summer, or vice versa. Maybe it goes up and down because you have some small items that you sell, and then you have one big deal that goes through once or twice a year, or one big contract that you have. So you have these huge swings and roundabouts in your business. It doesn't matter so much what that looks like, as long as you know what it looks like, so that you can plan better for the future. Um, what do you think, Jade, about money? What topics come up in your coaching around money and people being scared of it? Is that something that happens for you as well?
No, definitely. There's the relationship to money. So obviously, money brings in a lot of fear or happiness, depending on a person's relationship to money, which there's a lot that plays a role in that. It's how we've been brought up, how our parents have thought about money, which has influenced how we think about money, our experiences with money. And this has all created conditioning around money, which impacts our relationship to it, and then how we handle it. And we're not only handling it in business, but we're handling it in our personal life as well. So there's lots of patterns that you can start to see happening if a relationship with money is not healthy. So we really want to build that healthy relationship so that we can even out that flow and see, what are we doing, how are we showing up in life that is impacting the flow in our life and in our money, because there is definitely a correlation there. So one of the things having a look at is a principle of money is money follows order. So when we have order in our life, we are able to get flow with money, because money loves order. So when we're planning, so we mentioned this beautiful word budgeting. And for those of you listening, if you just think of budget, notice what happens in your body. What are the thoughts that come up? Is it, oh no, that's icky, I try and avoid that, I don't like looking at my budget? Or do you feel maybe a contraction in your body? For me, it's a very constrictive type energy that comes with the word budget, because we've been taught we only have so much, so we have to budget. But when we change the language in and we speak about planning, let me plan my money. So I'm going to plan it, and it's going to go here, 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 and here down these different avenues. It feels a little bit more expansive, like I've got more control. It doesn't feel so constrictive. So when we start to shift our language in around it, we can start to relate to it differently, and not from this unconscious, constrictive type space. So I think that's very important when we look into planning and creating something that's going to work for us in our personal capacity and in business. What is your plan? If it is with money, what's that plan? Have you created an order and a structure that works for you, that will create momentum going forward? Because that for me is also important. What works for you? And knowing, as Linda has said as well, knowing your numbers, so important. Not knowing what's worked for other people and how they are progressing with what numbers they use, but what is your numbers and how do you progress with your numbers? I think that's incredibly important. We've got
Ah,
Clarissa. Yeah, did you see it pop up?
so Clarissa, welcome to the show. I was sitting here listening to Jade, thinking we've scared you all off, and that it isn't the intention. We want to help you get comfortable with the idea of planning in the sense of knowing your numbers. And what Jade said just now, a moment ago, was money loves order. And that really struck me as, money loves order. A business owner myself, I love order. And therefore money loves me and I love money. So the order thing, it's required, right, to be able to sit there and create the structure and order in order for the flow to happen. Whether we're talking the language of consciousness coaching that Jade is, which is a beautiful language, or whether we're talking, critical business acumen and business speak, it changing that language to allow the results to just happen is beautiful. It's just it like makes me just feel wonderful, back to that definition of what works with your heart and soul. So Clarissa says, I feel very uncomfortable when I don't plan and budget. So that's an interesting take on it, right? I was expecting the sentence to go, I feel very uncomfortable with budgeting, but Clarissa is not. So she does it every month, and if there are unexpected expenses, we can make a plan. Thank you for bringing that up, Clarissa. It's wonderful to hear that somebody in business is finding it a worthwhile activity to do. How often do you plan and do your budget, Jade?
Definitely on a monthly
Sorry,
basis.
not budget. Plan your money flows.
Plan. No, so definitely on a monthly basis, and it's a conscious check-in all the time to have a look at where am I progressing, what's in the way, what needs to be changed. So really being conscious of what's going on, because so often you mentioned earlier, Linda, are you aware of what's going on in your bank account? So many people are not aware of the debit orders they've signed up for, because maybe it was 5 years ago and they're not fully conscious of that debit order still going off, and it might be something for something irrelevant. So really, do you know what's going on in your bank account? Are you aware? Because normally if you go through, you can have a look, and I've known clients to cut down at least 10% by becoming have more, 10% more available, cut out 10% of expenses by becoming more conscious of what's going on in their bank account. So really going through those debit orders, having a look and seeing what is relevant, what isn't relevant, what can I cut out on. There's also something called money weeds that I refer to. So what are you spending money on that is also irrelevant? Like what I did many years ago, I was quite OCD, and I would buy an album on iTunes. I would want one song or two songs, but I would buy the entire album for those one or two songs. So you're spending, at that time, it was 110 Rand or something, for two songs, and I wouldn't never listen to the rest. So, and that is a money weed, because I'm spending when I can just spend 20 Rand on two songs that I actually want. So where are you doing that kind of thing? Where do you go if you going into the shops and buying with your credit card or your debit card? Are you consciously aware of absolutely everything that you're buying when you get to the till, how much is going to go off? Because I promise you, if you had to walk into Woolies with 500 Rand cash in your hand, you would be very conscious about what you were buying. Whereas the swiping of the card is actually more unconscious, because you'll walk down an aisle and go, oh, actually, I want that as well. But you didn't go to the shop for that. And it just becomes something that we become unconscious of. So really having a look at all of these things that are playing a role that impact your planning with regards to money, because they leak money when we're talking about this type of numbers.
These weeds. I love that analogy, actually, the money weeds. Great point. And it made me think, Jade, that often when I'm talking to somebody right up front with a business, or they are struggling with the money, you get these responses when you ask, what is your challenge in business? Quite often it's, well, we don't have any money. There's nothing left at the end of the month in my bank account. There's my suppliers take too long to pay, and I'm having to fork money out all the time. In a personal tone, you say, I haven't got money to go on holiday. I don't have any money to buy those new shoes. I'm really struggling with money right now, and these are all the things. And what you just said, there is just a very simple exercise for our listeners that you can do is please just do this. Just print out or get it on your screen, your bank statement for 1 month, and look first at the expenses. So you might need your credit card statement and your debit card statement, but just print them out. Take a highlighter and just highlight all the expenses. And then have a good look at those expenses, add them up, see which is the biggest. The biggest is probably your rent, your bond, your food, your car payments, you might have a loan or something that you're paying in your personal capacity, or school fees. They're pretty expensive as well. But there'll be the smaller things as well, like Jade was referring to, where you've just signed up a debit order for something for 100 Rand or 200 Rand or 300 Rand. Start there. Start with the small things and say, do I really need this? Is it something I actually knew about, or is it something I've forgotten about? Do I really need it? Yeah, then you are going to have to take some actions, guys, right? Once you've got the answer, no, I don't really need it, you're going to have to take the step to cancel the debit order. And I know that can be really hard, but just set aside some time and just do it. I'll tell you one thing, just a personal story. When I left the banking industry, when I chose to resign from the bank and start a business from scratch, which I know is a bit cuckoo, but started with zero income month one. But of course, I still had expenses. But I managed, by doing that very exercise I've just told you about, to reduce my monthly expenses by 60. Yeah, not 60%, and still maintaining that this day, 3 years later. So it's absolutely doable. I really recommend that as step one. Print out the bank statements, highlight the expenses, see what's not really adding any value, both for your business and in your personal life. And voila, you may just have another 500 Rand to go and buy that pair of shoes or to save for your future, right? So suddenly, some very simple, straightforward exercise like that with the right mindset, money will flow your way. You don't have to do much more.
I think we've lost Linda for a second. So absolutely, starting with the small steps on what to do, what to implement, actually starts to support you gaining momentum. So from that point, you can start to filter in a bit more. So going on to the bigger stuff, when we're having a look at something like debt, if there's debt, once you've gone through and you see that you can free up some money with the expenses that you've now cut out, then you can actually start allocating it to your debt first. And what we say is pay the smallest one off. So for example, in general, people have like a credit card, maybe a loan, a car, and then a house. So what you do is you take that and you allocate it to the smallest debt. So you're paying off the smallest debt first. Once that is paid off, then you take that amount and that you were paying on, let's say it was the credit card, and you put it all into the loan. So what you're paying on the loan currently, plus what you were paying on the credit card, to then cancel out the loan as quickly as possible. From there, you then take that onto your car, and from your car onto your house. It sounds, I'm not trying to make it sound easy. It is simple when it's applied, and it does take a lot of discipline, but that way you start to operate well with your money, and you can get rid of debt quicker than what you imagined, because it's just something that sits there. And sometimes we get stuck in paying the minimum amount, which means that it never ever changes. So we're just paying the minimum amount, and actually the interest, we're not taking into account the interest, and therefore it just sits there as a lump sum. So when we do a process like that, we can start to make great changes when it comes to money and the availability that we have of money. So we've just lost Linda. I just want to check. She's trying to reconnect at this point. So having a little look again a little bit more. So when we're looking at Limitless, what it means for you, I would say to you to really start having a look at what is your definition of limitless. So what would make your heart happy? Often we link, so we've brought in the topic of money, we link money to freedom. So freedom is when I have money, then I will be free. And as human beings, we have learned that money as a resource gives us the welcome back, Linda.
Sorry, I ran away for 2 minutes.
No problem. So what I was saying is money, we've learned that money as a resource is what will bring us freedom. And you'll hear people saying, when I can do what I want, when I want, how I want, where I want, then I'll, and they fill in the blank. So we've linked this to freedom. But what that actually does is it limits freedom, because then it's attached to having, for example, now money. So then it becomes limited, right? So what is your definition of limitless? What would it mean to you to be limitless? Bringing in Linda's beautiful definition from earlier. And is it attached to anything that would actually keep you limited? So really starting to have a look at what that is for yourself, so that you can start detaching to create the space for expansion and growth, which ultimately then creates the momentum towards your goals and your dreams. So, Linda, I've just been sharing about the freedom and the money and how we attach it, which can keep us stuck and keep us away from being limitless. So that's sort of where I'm at. In terms of business, how do you see that being applicable for a business owner?
How do I see that being applicable for the business owner? Well, I think it's got everything to do with it, right? Because what I was saying earlier, before I ran away for a couple of minutes, sorry guys, was that there are so many excuses about why we don't have something, why we can't do something, why we shouldn't do something. And if you can just allow the mind to be freer, and know why you are running this business, or why you want that holiday overseas, or why you want to improve your position in life, that really can help you to free up. But we all know that there are things that keep you stuck. And what I've realized, I've seen this quite a bit as a business coach. It's quite often the mindset, really, isn't it? But sometimes you need a coach or someone who can help unlock what is holding you back. Jade certainly is one of those people, and I know that for sure, because I go through little aspects where something is holding me back from filling my treasure chest full of money. I think it was my dad's comment about money doesn't grow on trees, when I was 6 or 7. And a repeated one, money doesn't grow on trees, but of course it does, because you take bark and run it through some processing, and it can turn into paper money these days, right? But you get the point. So it sort of restricted me, and the money is evil one as well. It's only rich people who have money, and therefore you don't want to associate with rich people, so you never have any money. So it really is. I think it's a vital aspect of running a business that many people would miss, is that understanding of your relationship with money. And then when you've got comfortable with that, is when you then sit down and start to put together your plan for the future. And that plan, I can go into
tons of detail today, but if you have any questions, please pop them in the chat box or connect with Jade or I on LinkedIn and ask them. We will definitely get back to you. The questions start to arise around exactly how do you put that plan together. As I said before, if you know your expenses, if you know your current position in terms of income, then you can build a pattern, you can build a picture of where you're going. And then you can say, that's not enough. I need to stretch to a higher level, to a different target. And when you say that, let's say, for example, you're earning 100,000 Rand a year, and based on your goals, you know that you need to earn 200,000 a year. The steps then that you would take to get from 100 to 200 is the thing called planning and implementation. And then you would sit down. If you're uncomfortable doing it yourself, that's again where you ask for expert help, is to sit down and work out what those patterns are, work out how you realistically can get from one place to the next place. It is a journey, so you don't just jump necessarily. And of course, there are multiple elements to that story. What is your price? What is your product? How many can you sell? The volumes? At what cost does producing that product or service come, so that you adding cost as you adding revenue? At what speed are you adding cost at the same time as you earning income? And so, yes, these are difficult concepts, but believe me, if you don't understand them, if you haven't got a good grasp on them, if you're not tracking, monitoring, setting stretch targets, resetting, keep reaching for it, you will stagnate and you will not have any money. So that's just a fact. And my appeal for anybody listening in today that's struggling with this concept is reach out to someone who can show you an easier, better way of getting to know your numbers or getting comfortable with money.
Linda, we've got a question from Clarissa.
Yeah.
While you're on that point, are you guys helping entrepreneurs with that as well? Very important points. So for you, Linda, I know you're quite specific on what phase in the business you come in on. So do you want to share that?
Yeah, 100%. Look, obviously, people who are new in business require a lot of assistance on a lot of different topics. So it's a step-by-step approach there, and it can be quite difficult for just one person to help. And so if you're in that position of starting out in business, I encourage you to reach out to a number of different people, get opinions and advice, put the continuous learning hat on and look for this information, but then apply a filter to ensure that you don't just run off in one direction. So yes, there's a lot of people out there that can advise the startup and the small business who's beginning or thinking of starting. But in my coaching practice, I work with those in what I would call the third stage of business. And that third stage of business comes after the creation phase and the chaos phase, which always happen in the first 3 years or so of owning your own business or any kind of business. But at the third or fourth year, at this stage 3, you've settled into a reasonable pattern of profitability. The business is profitable. You're starting to lose capacity for taking on more clients without coming up with a strategy to grow. And that's a big part of where I would come in and sit down and put a strategic plan together, where we would look over the past 3 years at the growth. Has that been in line with your expectations or not? If not, why not? What are those things that were holding you back? And how can we adapt and change the behaviors within the business? Do you need to let go of some things and train some employees? Do you need to outsource some non-value adding activities? Do you have to put away distractions that are causing you not to concentrate on growing your business? And then to specifically look at what are the opportunities to grow, what are the threats to that, your competition and what they're doing. What are your particular unique skills that you can market more effectively? And then we really build out a beautiful marquee over your business, which is full of all the elements that would drive success to that vision and future that you're dreaming of. So that's how I would do it. So if you are one of those people that would like to build a strategy to move onto higher ground, to get further up the mountain, for a bunch of analogies, or further along the business journey, then reach out and let's have a chat. I'm always available to have a chat on Zoom or WhatsApp video call. I think we all become familiar with that. So I'd love to chat to you some more about your particular situation. And then, then Jade, let's use this opportunity for you to share your programs that you have available to really assist people who may have resonated with some of what we've said today regarding the relationship with money.
Sure. So definitely within the coaching space, and I have a program that I run with regards to money mindset and your relationship to money, and really having a look and unpacking all the principles involved, where you sit, what are the beliefs that have come in that you haven't necessarily chosen for yourself, and then we unpack it and create a new future for you going forward, a vision that you choose to live into and not one that has been unconsciously given to you. And then obviously through the coaching process, where somebody will come to me with a specific goal in mind, we then unpack that and we have a look in a similar way. Where are you at? Where do you want to go? What do we need to unlock and get you moving forward? And there's a very specific process, and this is also again for me speaks to the limitless planning. What happens is sometimes we want to jump too far ahead. So we get so eager and excited in our planning that we take a stretch too far, which then creates problems because we're not yet there. We're not yet at that level where we can contain that big stretch. So what for me is always important that people be aware of, that they're doing it in bite-sized chunks. There's that a saying where you eat an elephant one bite at a time. Not that I would want to eat an elephant, but
No.
another idea being that you do it slowly. You take, what's this step? What's the next step? What's the next step? So if we're looking at a number and giving it a number, what's the 20% stretch outside of your comfort zone? Because remembering, we know that we grow outside the comfort zone. If we're within the comfort zone, then we're just doing what we know and shoving around the same information all the time. We want to get outside so that we're starting to stretch ourselves into growth so that we can expand. So 20% outside of your comfort zone, most likely achievable stretch, because it's not too much that it's going to cause resistance and you'll trigger all the negative thinking and beliefs that you may have. Oh, I'm a failure, I'm not worthy, I won't be successful. Because the minute that you step too far, you're likely to trigger those patterns, which will then only create despondency, especially if you fall prey to that type of thinking. So 20% stretches, most likely achievable stretch in your planning. So make sure that you're doing it little bit by little bit. If you're looking at the sales numbers, you gain 10 new clients this month. So next month, you're going to increase it by 20%. So you're going to get 12 and then 20%. And you're going to, so you go. And before you know it, you're further than you ever thought that you would be. And it wasn't even nearly as difficult as you thought it was going to be. So really having a look and seeing what is that stretch for you and how do you implement it in a way that works for you. I think that's incredibly important. That is what I work with my clients, my coaching process.
Mm.
Always 20% stretches so that they can see the momentum being gained rather than be getting despondent because they're trying to do too much all at once.
That's right.
No.
No, that's right, Jade. And yeah, I echo that. It actually translates very nicely into something, a tool I use called the profit equation, where you can demonstrate exactly that principle by taking your existing figures, your average figures over a period of 6 or 12 months, and showing that if you, I use a 10%, but if 10's your number, or 20%, as long as it's more than zero, we use a 10% to say that if you can just increase the number of clients by 10%, so from 10 to 11, and you can just increase the price at some point by 10%, from 1,000 Rand to 1,100, then you already have more than 10% of your increase in revenue. And then if you can reduce your expenses by 10%, then you start to open the doors, what they call can't do this properly on the screen. You start to open the doors, revenue gets higher and expenses get lower. And this bit in the middle, in the jaw, is your profit. So if you concentrate on those two aspects, then you become more and more profitable. And you ask the question, how do we do that, Linda? How do we make that happen? How can I increase my prices in this competitive world? How can I get more clients? I'm trying. Yes, I get it. It's the business. No one said business is easy. I hope no one told you. I hope no one told you that it was going to be easy, because they lied. It's not easy, but it is absolutely achievable with the right mindset and the right plans and the right determination, resilience, if you like, to absorb any setbacks and refocus. Remember, the title of our series this month is Focus in February. So to refocus back on you and your business and what will make it successful. And on that note, the importance of going back over this. This is not a one-time exercise. You do that bank statement thing once. You do what Jade's talked about once. You set a plan and you file it away. No. The most important part of that plan is that you pull it out on a regular basis. Have another look at it, and note, am I on track? Am I not on track? If I'm on track, celebrate it. Please celebrate it, because it's important. It reinforces. It's a reinforcement that keeps you going. If you're not on track, it's also important to go, why not? Accept it, acknowledge it and accept it, but then to turn your mind from any negative thoughts straight to, what else can I do? How else could I do this to get better results next month? So I recommend looking at your plans in general, at least every month, your finances, your numbers every week, if not every day, depending on the size of your business. Do not leave it to just tax return time, because that's just not cutting it. Then you'll just have a big tax bill to pay because you haven't been paying attention. And your accountant might run off with your money, but hopefully not. There's lots of good reasons why you should know your numbers, but the one that we're talking about today is to help you to focus on that plan that you've spent so much time putting together. You committed to it. You've got your stretch targets. You involved. It's your business. I mean, I hope I'm talking to business owners, but if it's your life, it's your life. It's really important to continuously review, reflect, refocus, refresh, all these R words, and keep going, keep going, because it's worth it. And that's something that I've certainly found is, when it's your business, it's so worth it if you can get it right. So why would you not want to put the effort in? to getting it right.
Mm. No, absolutely, Linda. I think it's so important what you've said, just having that conscious awareness all the time of where are you going. And for me, that speaks back to our last week's broadcast where we had a look at the plan or the goals actually being the framework within which you operate, because it provides direction. It gives you something that you're working towards, and then you flow within the framework. And for me, when you have that vision or that purpose for yourself and you consciously connect to it all the time, you're really pulling yourself forward to achieving exactly that. And you'll be so surprised in how much you can do and how much you expand quicker than anything else.
Mm.
There's a client that I have, and I always kind of refer to him because he's happy to take the risks, like a goldfish in a goldfish bowl, right? So he grows and grows, and so then he expands his bowl and he jumps into it, and then he gets bigger and bigger because the goldfish grows to the size relative of the bowl. And I think that that's what we need to do. That's why there's that 20% stretch, because that supports the expansion within ourselves, which then for me links into that limitless. So you keep going and you keep going. So having that plan and being consciously connected to it all the time, focusing, reviewing, having a look, what worked, what didn't work, what do I need to put in place, so that I keep going forward and I keep the momentum, really supports you to just go, to be limitless. I think that for me, it's easier than we think. It's just about putting it into practice.
Yeah, and limitless, another definition of limitless is without end or boundary. In other words, it's continuous and expansionary, right? So I think maybe that's a good place for us to end today. I haven't seen any more questions. I hope those who were listening live enjoyed it, and those who listen later, if you have any comments, any feedback for us on the value that you've got out of this program or not, if you have any suggestions for Jade and myself in terms of anything really, we completely open to feedback, good or bad, and it only helps us to learn and grow. So with that, next week we have one more for February, focus in February, and that's creating the commitments and action plans. We'll delve a little bit deeper into how you would do that.
Yes. Looking forward to that. Definitely a supporting feature in this month's topic. So it was been great being here. Please definitely pop in any questions if you're watching the recording later. And like Linda said, we're happy to answer anything, even if you DM us. That's all good. So see you next week, same time.